In a swamp, SAHDR carefully pushed aside the grass. "There," he said excitedly in a low voice, pointing at a 3-meter-long snake with green eyes. "That's a green-eyed magical snake. Its core is worth 20 rugiemos." 20. Kill and Mond panted, their eyes shining with excitement. One was holding a sack, and the other had an iron rod in his hand. This swamp was called the Black Swamp, and was about 10 miles south of Chaos City. It belonged to giant dragons. The Silent Mountains, Dark Abyss, and Valley of Thorns were all not far from here. Different types of magical beasts were living in these places. Rare herbs and animals could also be found here. There weren't many dragons, and most of them lived on their island. They didn't deign to come to these dangerous places. They were using them as their natural defensive barrier. No one could cross it without powerful strength and a flying mount. In time, this area had become a paradise for adventurers. They could find quests concerning this area every day in the Chaos Guild. There were difficult quests and easy quests. Naturally, difficult ones came with great rewards. A certain golden dragon's head could be worth 100 million copper coins, while finding some herbs and cooking ingredients could only get an adventurer 10. Easy quests were always much less dangerous, and were often done by less powerful adventurers. "Boss, 20 rugiemos plus 12 in this bag, and we don't have to worry about tonight and tomorrow's food," Mond said with a smile, carrying a heavy bag with care. Deep in the Black Swamp, poisonous black fog was floating. No one dared to venture into this place without proper protection. SAHDR and his 2 companions were now being protected by a layer of red flames over their bodies. The fog couldn't reach them. "Don't take your eyes off it. If it goes into the ground, then you can say goodbye to your rugiemos," SAHDR said seriously. "You two go around the back. I'll heat up the ground to block its escape route, and then summon lava meteorites on it. You wait for the right moment to catch it with the sack. Do not kill it. It's worth 30 rugiemos alive." "It's as easy as that?" Mond asked, scratching his bald head. "Yes. Its weapon is its eyes. If you stare into its eyes for 3 seconds, it will cast an illusion on you. That's why we have brought a sack. Don't worry. It's not poisonous," SAHDR said, patting Mond on the head. "Go. After we catch this one, we'll try to find that green shadow wolf I failed to catch last time. Its fur is worth 100 rugiemos." "Yes, boss." Kill and Mond said excitedly. They stayed low and crept towards the snake. They were warriors and born hunters. They never made a sound. The snake was still resting there, unaware of the approaching danger. The 3 lava demons exchanged a glance and nodded. SAHDR put both hands on the ground. His hands went up in flames, and the flames went into the ground and rushed towards the snake. The ground seemed to be on fire immediately. Feeling the heat from the ground, the snake raised its head, startled. Then, it saw SAHDR and flicked its tongue menacingly at him, about to leave. "Appear! Lava meteorites!" Then, the air above them became red. Several burning stones the size of a head dropped from the air and landed before the snake, blocking its way. "Now!" SAHDR roared, charging towards the snake. "For rugiemo! For rugiemo!" Kill and Mond echoed. There were only 3 of them, but their cry was loud and inspiring. The snake tried to find an opportunity to strike back as it was dodging stones. But, before it could find one, its vision got cut off by the sack, and then it was knocked unconscious. Mond tied off the sack quickly. "Boss, we did it," he said to SAHDR excitedly. "Yes," SAHDR replied with a smile, nodding. "We're invincible." "For rugiemo," Mond said with a big smile, holding up the sack. "When our burning legion becomes much stronger, maybe we can kill that golden dragon. It will provide us with years of rugiemos," Kill said, expectant. "I will make sure of that," SAHDR said. "We, the Burning Legion, will make sure of that." They walked off together, talking about Rigiamo. Is this really that good? The 6 restaurateurs were staring at the Rigiamo in their hands. The pleasant aroma of meat made them swallow despite themselves. The back of the elf girl on the bag caught their attention. They were startled. Not only did he hire a half-dragon as a waitress, but he is using his daughter, a half-elf, as his trademark? Andrew picked up his Rigiamo, and took a bite. The other restaurateurs were all looking at Andrew. He handled pork every day, so they were all waiting to hear what he had to say. Andrew chewed on the food slowly. The outside of the bread was crunchy, but the inside was soft and had just the right amount of chewiness and sweetness. Also, the gravy seeping into the bread enriched its taste. This gravy is made from pork? Andrew wondered. He didn't understand. He had been slaughtering pigs for over 20 years. He knew the difference in taste among different parts of pork, but he had never tasted such different gravy. This gravy had a strong aroma of meat. The spices had brought out the meat flavor. He could feel his taste buds screaming in delight. After he bit into the meat, it was so soft that it melted in his mouth. Just amazing. Andrew's eyes went wide. He had thought the streaky pork would be too greasy, but he had clearly been wrong. Tasty juice seeped out. He swallowed. He felt warm, and then hot. He could feel his blood rushing and his heart thumping. Ah, Andrew couldn't help but let out a cry of delight. His body fat started shaking, not as violently as that of Harrison and his friends, though. After all, he had more muscles than fat. Well, the other restaurateurs asked. Andrew's reaction was too extreme. They would have thought that he was a fake customer hired by the owner if they hadn't come here together. It's good, Andrew said simply, not taking his eyes away from the Rigiamo. The taste still lingered in his mouth. He took another large bite, savoring the delicious food. His blood was rushing like river rapids. This is no ordinary pork. Andrew thought with iron certainty. But what does it matter? One bite after another, he was wolfing down his Rigiamo quickly. The other restaurateurs were gaping at Andrew. They could see he liked the food so much that he wouldn't even spare the time to talk about it with them. Is it really that good? Bishop muttered, bringing the Rigiamo to his mouth. His green onion bing was the most delicious flatbread at the Aden Square, or so he thought. It was a pity his bing didn't make it into the top 100 most delicious food at the Aden Square during the last competition, but his business was always good. He could sell more than 1,000 green onion bings every day. Bishop's eyes widened after he chewed several times. How can bread taste this good? He had thought that bread shouldn't be eaten with meat, but the soft, sweet bread went perfectly with the delicious meat. One completed the other. His green onion bing completely lost in taste department. The thought that he might never be able to make something this delicious made him despair. He felt very frustrated, yet still he gave a cry in delight after he swallowed. The rushing blood made him feel young again. He didn't know what it was in the Rigiamo that made him feel this way. He had invented this green onion bing based on pancake. His 3 sons learned from him all these years, and had already mastered the dish. However, whenever they wanted to try something new, he was always there to stop them, with curses or his fist. Making green onion bing was the only thing his first and second son had on their minds now. Maybe it's time I step down and let them do whatever they want, Bishop thought, looking at the Rigiamo in his hand. He had to admit that the customer was right when he said his bing didn't stand a chance against this thing. His green onion bing was much cheaper, though. That was a good selling point. But, he didn't consider this Rigiamo expensive. If he could make something this good, with such a magical effect, he would have it priced at 400 or even 600 copper coins. It's very good, Bishop said, and then got back to enjoying his food. A smile crept up onto his face. Seeing that Bishop was already totally lost in the food, the other restaurateurs couldn't wait any longer. Ah! They let out a cry at almost the same time. They couldn't hide their surprise. They had thought Andrew and Bishop were too easily impressed, but now they knew it had been a spontaneous reaction on their part. "I've never eaten anything half as good as this before," Bernice exclaimed. Miles nodded. "The owner must be a genius. I'll bet that one of the top 10 most delicious foods will have to be replaced by this half a month later at the competition," he said excitedly, looking at Mag in the kitchen. "You can totally say that again," Bernice said, nodding. "I think it will even make it into the top 5. She was a little abashed with the embarrassing sound she'd just made, but her companions were too immersed in the food to mind her. She was a cook herself, but she had to admit she was completely impressed by this Ruggiemo. Now she found it worth the price. She couldn't even figure out how to make bread this soft, chewy, and crunchy at the same time. Why is he using streaky pork? She wondered. And how did he make the meat so flavorful yet not greasy at all? It's a genius idea to eat bread with meat. What spices did he use? These restaurateurs had so many questions on their minds. Miles shook his head. "It has a top 5 taste, no doubt, or even top 3, he said, smiling. "But the number of customers and their comments also matter in the competition. This place is not big enough. He needs to get more customers eating here if he wants to make it into the top 5. Miles has a point here, but I think this food may set new records in many aspects," Andrew said, putting down the empty bag slowly. "No dish having over 1,000 comments has got 5 stars in all aspects for a long time, I think." He smiled. "It's been so long since I last ate something this good. Waitress, I'd like another Ruggiemo, please." "I want another one too," Bishop said to Yabimiya. "Sure. Please wait a sec," the young waitress replied with a smile, eyes shining with joy and pride. Nobody can resist Mag's food, not even other cooks. Amy gave a big smile. "I knew they would love it." She pinched Ugly Duckling's cheeks, drawing it back before it fell off her laps. Mag shook his head with a smile as he turned to glance at his counterparts. "I never realized my food would bring about so much debate. Top 10 most delicious foods? 5 stars in all aspects? Why do they care so much about this? It's nearly impossible to score 5 stars in all aspects. Different folks like different foods," said Bishop. "Yes. Customers are very difficult to satisfy these days," Bernice said. "They look for good dining experience, which I don't think they can get here, since humans, dwarves, and orcs have to eat together. He can't get 5 stars in this aspect. Mag's Ruggiemo is indeed the best. Even Bernice is speaking highly of it," a voice said. "You and she should try Mag's Yangzhou fried rice. That's the best food I've ever had," another voice said. "These restaurateurs are not so proud now, are they?" a third voice said. Some customers were chatting in a low voice. The 6 restaurateurs overheard them, but they could do nothing but listen quietly. An embarrassed look crept onto their faces. "Do you like Father's Ruggiemo, Mrs. Flower Apron?" Amy asked. Smiling, Bernice nodded. "Yes, it's very tasty. Father's rainbow fried rice is also very tasty. I'm sure you'll like it too." By then, Yabimiya had walked out of the kitchen with 2 plates of Yangzhou fried rice. She put down one plate before Andrew and one before Bernice. "Your Yangzhou fried rice, please enjoy," she said. Bernice's eyes widened. The pleasant smell of eggs and other ingredients mixed together and tickled her nose. Each rice grain had been perfectly coated by golden eggs. She counted 6 different ingredients besides eggs and rice. Every ingredient had been chopped into the same size as the rice grain. It did look like a rainbow in a way. So many different ingredients, yet it looked so harmonious. Talk about fineness. His cutting skills must be really good if he can chop the shrimp so evenly, Bernice said. She spooned some into her mouth, and chewed a few times. Despite herself, she then closed her eyes. The spiciness of the eggs and the taste of other ingredients melded together, yet each flavor remained so distinct. After she swallowed, she felt a warm current flowing all over her body, calming her down and soothing her. A smile touched her lips. Rugiemo could make her blood pump, but she liked this fried rice better as it was nice and peaceful. Good food makes you happy, Bernice said as she opened her eyes. She took another bite, and then another. Bernice's blissful look intrigued Andrew. He spooned some rice into his mouth. The other restaurateurs swallowed as they watched Bernice gobbling down her food. Bernice was very picky about what she ate. She didn't like anything too greasy. From the look of it, she liked this fried rice better than Rugiemo. They turned to look at Andrew, waiting for his comments. Andrew's blood was still pumping from eating a Rugiemo. He felt as if he had grown in strength. How could this be possible? Probably it's just my imagination. Andrew's face lit up as he chewed on the rice. He had never expected so many ingredients cooked together would taste so good. The savory ham, sweet shrimp, crisp winter bamboo shoots. Every taste was so distinctive, yet they blended perfectly together to create such a nice texture. After he swallowed, it turned into a warm current, assuaging his weariness. It was so comfortable that he felt like closing his eyes. Then his eyes opened suddenly, staring at the Yangzhou fried rice before him. The food here has special effect? It's not my imagination at all. Andrew clenched his fist. A smile touched the corners of his mouth. I can feel it. My strength has grown. What's wrong, Andrew? Miles asked curiously. Can't you feel it? The Rugiemo has made my strength grow a little. Then he pointed at the fried rice. And this is good for relieving fatigue. Isn't it magical? The others were taken by surprise. They had felt the change in their bodies after they ate their Rugiemo, but they hadn't realized what had changed until now. Ting! The spoon clattered on the empty plate. Bernice licked her lips with a blissful smile. I'm afraid one of the top 3 most delicious foods will have to be replaced by this. I've never eaten anything as good as this fried rice here. I like Rugiemo better. The meat is unbelievable. This Yangzhou fried rice is also very delicious, though, Andrew said, smiling. He brought another spoonful of rice into his mouth and felt happy as his weariness went away. Thanks to you, I can't wait to try this Yangzhou fried rice, Miles said with a smile. Soon, the fried rice they had ordered came, and they dug in immediately. Mag came out of the kitchen with a box of fried rice, and handed it to Vicenio. Vicenio looked much better now. Your Yangzhou fried rice is really amazing, he said, excited, giving Mag a thumbs up. He felt like himself again. Those pills he had taken had done more harm than good to his body. Thankfully, this Yangzhou fried rice had revived him. He felt alive again. He would eat another plate if his stomach weren't already full. Mag took the coins in his hand and smiled. Come back soon. I definitely will. Then he made for the door with his Yangzhou fried rice. Smiling, Mag shook his head. Poor guy. I'll tell you the place for teaching when I come for dinner in the evening, Mag, Krasus said as he paid his check. Mag nodded with a smile. Thank you. The old man was Amy's master now, and he had almost become the elf princess's master, so he had to show the respect he deserved. The looks on their faces would be amusing if they found out that their disciple was the elf princess's daughter. Bye, Amy, Krasus said to Amy. Bye, Master Halfbeard, Amy replied, waving her hand. Urian paid his check and left too. Do I need to teach her swordplay? Mag thought as he watched Krasus and Urian leave. He couldn't lift a heavy sword now, but he still knew all the skills. Could you bring us the check, please? Andrew said to Mag. Amy slipped down the chair, and trotted up to them. Do you pay separately or together? Apparently, she was already very good at doing this. Separately, little cashier, Bernice said, putting 9 gold coins in Amy's little hand. She stroked Amy's hair and smiled. I'll bring you a flower apron next time I come here. Amy nodded happily. Thank you, Mrs. Flower Apron. The other restaurateurs paid their checks, and walked towards the door. Miles stopped when he walked past Mag. You're a real genius, Mag. You may bring a revolution to the gastronomic world, he said seriously. The other customers turned to look at Mag. They all shared his view. Mag had truly overturned their concept of good food. I'm just a cook. The restaurant fell silent. They were all regarding Mag thoughtfully. Cooks were ordinary, but restaurants couldn't do without them. Most cooks didn't like to be referred to as cooks when they also happened to be a restaurateur. They considered themselves much more than cooks. But not Mag. Even when his food was marvelous, his restaurant was stylish, and his business was great, he still called himself a cook. His modesty humbled his counterparts and won admiration of many customers. No wonder he can cook such incredible food. He knows what he and his purpose in life are. He's a formidable opponent, Miles thought with approval. Andrew and the other restaurateurs nodded at Mag, thoughtful. Then they left. I just used a line from one of Stephen Chow's films, but why do I get the feeling that I have inspired them? Mag thought happily, and walked towards the kitchen. Those restaurateurs hadn't asked anything about his recipes, his methods of cooking, or the spices he used. They had shown their respect and understanding. Yet, they might still learn a thing or two since they were cooks, and not just common customers. I don't care what they have learned or haven't learned, Mag thought, and started cooking again. I'm looking forward to eating the tofu pudding in the evening, said Andreas. Me too. But which do you prefer, sweet or savory? Moyashi asked. The sweet one, of course, Andreas said. What about you? I prefer the savory one, Moyashi said reluctantly. Then the two friends fell silent. Don't worry, bro. We won't fight over which one is better, Andreas said awkwardly. Krasu and Urian had fought in the morning over the flavors of the tofu pudding. No one knew what would happen when Mag started selling it this evening. But, Andreas and Moyashi grew up together. They were too close to fight over such a triviality. Krasu was walking towards the exit of the square when Brandley trotted up to him, nervous and uneasy. Lord Krasu! Krasu stopped, and turned to look. He saw the emblem on his front, which was a grey sword and a grey shield. You're with the Grey Temple. What do you want, boy? For a moment, Brandley froze. He was over 70, nobody had called him boy for a very long time. Then he remembered Krasu was more than 120 years old. He listened to his legends growing up. Even his master had been an avid fan of Krasu when he was young, only, he had had no talent to become a melee magic caster. After he got beaten by a low-tier knight, he forsook melee magic, and became a ranged magic caster. Few magic casters were good at melee magic, and Krasu was the best of them. And Amy had just become his one and only disciple. That was something big in the magic community. Krasu was not in a good shape these years. Many magic casters had worried that his magic might die with him. Urian, the Lord of Ice, had also taken Amy on as his disciple. Who could have thought? Some magic casters might become uneasy when they learned the news. No one could imagine how powerful their disciple would become. After a dozen years, she would be able to wield both fire and ice magic, and fight up close as well as from a distance. Nobody would dare stand in her way. Krasu's face was expressionless, yet somehow Brandley could feel his power. Lord Krasu, I'm Brandley. I want to welcome you to Chaos City on behalf of the Grey Temple, he said with respect. We would have received you more formally if we had known of your arrival earlier. Never mind. I didn't tell the Grey Temple when I came here. I hope the little incident this morning didn't cause too much trouble for you. You were there, weren't you? Have you reported it to your superiors? Brandley was taken aback. He had never thought that Krasu had already noticed him in the morning, and that he was not nearly as kind as when he talked to Amy. He shook his head hurriedly. "No, my lord. The fight between you and Lord Urian is always a welcome sight as long as nobody gets hurt. I feel very privileged to have witnessed your fight in the morning, and I'm here to welcome you, my lord. If you need anything, just tell me." Krasu snorted. "You don't really want to see us fight in your city, do you?" Brandley pulled a wry face. "Their fight in the city would be totally disastrous." "Rest assured, we won't fight again, for now," said the old man. "Also, I have a servant, I don't need you. I plan on living in this city. You're too old to run errands for me, but maybe you can help me find a magic room. The Grey Temple has just set up several magic rooms 1 or 2 years ago," Brandley said, smiling. He had wanted to say he wasn't that old, but thought better of it. Clearly, Krasu didn't want to be watched by him. He had to inform the top brass that the Lord of Fire had decided to settle in Chaos City, which was not good news for them, since Urian lived here too. Krasu shook his head. "No. The Grey Temple is too far from here. It's not convenient for my disciple. There are many magic casters in Chaos City, but I can't just commandeer their magic rooms," Brandley said hesitantly. "The Chaos School teaches magic too, if my memory serves me right. Can't you find a magic room for me there?" "I'm really sorry, Lord Krasu, but my hands are tied," Brandley said with an apologetic smile. He wasn't a teacher in the Chaos School, and even if he was, he had no right to let Krasu use a magic room. First, he had to report to his superiors. Then, after they decided that the old man using a magic room would not affect the Chaos School too much, they would have to make an official request to the principal, who would determine whether the old man got to use his magic room or not. It would take at least 2 days, but Brandley had overheard him saying he was going to find a magic room in the afternoon. Chaos School is out of the question, he thought. You just need to take me to the principal. I'll take care of the rest. Krasu started walking towards the exit with a smile. I haven't seen Novan for years, the old man murmured to himself. Brandley's eyes went wide as he watched Krasu's back. He knows Novan? The principal of the Chaos School was a powerful 10th-tier magic caster. Novan might be the least pleasant man Brandley had ever met. Even the Lord of the Grey Temple and the Lord of Chaos City had to treat him with more respect. Brandley gritted his teeth and kept up with Krasu. God help me, he murmured. Mag breathed a sigh of relief when the last customer was gone. He stretched his stiff shoulders and smiled as he had got 632 customers as of now. He only needed 2 or 3 days to finish this mission. Amy trotted over to Mag. Let me pound your back, father, she said with caring eyes. But, since she was too short and wasn't strong enough, her pounding wasn't helping much. Nonetheless, her effort warmed Mag's heart. Only my own daughter cares about me. Boss, I can massage your shoulders if you want. I'm stronger than Amy, Yabimiya said, abashed, fingers intertwining nervously behind her back. You know how to massage shoulders. Amy pulled back her hands, panting. She was already tired. Sister Mia, help me, the young waitress nodded. I know some. I massaged my mother's shoulders when I was little. She had to work all day crouching on the ground and washing dishes. The thought of her mother made her eyes moist. I'll leave my shoulders to you then, Mag said with a smile. He leaned back on the chair and closed his eyes. Try not to break my bones. Yabimiya giggled. She shook her head. Don't worry, boss. I won't. Mag nodded, smiling. Thank you. Yabimiya got around back, and hesitated a moment before placing her hands on his shoulders. She seemed a little nervous, her face flushed red, her hands shaking. I'll get some rest. Don't mind me, Mag said. His breath slowed and evened out as if he had fallen asleep. Yabimiya nodded. Yes, boss. She took several deep breaths, and her nervousness was largely gone. She started massaging his neck, shoulders, and arms. As her hands moved around his neck, Mag almost moaned in comfort. I've found myself a dragon masseuse, Mag thought happily to himself. The young waitress turned out to be a great masseuse. She had stronger hands. Mag's weariness faded, and he truly fell asleep this time. After some time, Mag woke up, only to find it was already 2:30 p.m. He had a blanket on himself, and so did Amy, who was sleeping on the table with Ugly Duckling asleep on her laps. Smiling, Mag shook his head. I have really fallen asleep. He rose to his feet and stretched, feeling great. Dishes clattered in the kitchen. The floor was reflectively clean. Everything was neat and tidy. It seemed she was almost done. Mag put the blanket on the chair, and made for the kitchen. It would be a pity to let her talent in massage go to waste, Mag thought to himself. To be sure, young Joe fried rice could relieve his fatigue, but he didn't want to eat it every day. Her massage worked as well as young Joe fried rice. Mia, I have a little job for you, Mag said as Yabimiya carefully removed the dishes from the dishwasher. The payment is a free dinner, same as lunch. Yabimiya turned around, surprised. She liked the food here very much. She was already extremely grateful to her boss for the free lunches. After all, she couldn't afford to eat in this restaurant. Tantalizing as the food was, she shook her head. I'll do the job, but you don't need to pay me anything. You have already given me too much. It's not included in your job description, so it's only fair that I pay you extra, said Mag. She's such a nice girl. Besides massaging his shoulders, Mag was very happy with her work. She could work as much as 3 people. He couldn't bear the sight of her eating pancakes for dinner anymore. But, I haven't told you what this little job is, Mag interrupted. He looked at her curious eyes and smiled. You see, we're quite busy. I get tired sometimes, so would you please massage my shoulders when we're closed? She had thought Mag would ask her to help in the kitchen. She shook her head immediately. No, I mean, it's not something that will take a lot of time and effort. Just tell me when you feel tired. You don't need to pay me to do that. I'll take that as a yes then. Mag smiled, and added, we have sweet tofu pudding tonight. Yabimiya swallowed despite herself. Looking at Mag's kind eyes, she hesitated a moment before nodding. Thank you, boss. I'll work harder, she said formally. That's the spirit. Seeing that she had already finished cleaning everything, he said, get some rest. You can dance with Amy when she wakes up. I can help in the kitchen. Just tell me what I need to do. She felt more uncomfortable watching her boss toiling in the kitchen while she sat around now that he had offered her free dinners. She decided she had to work harder. You are not allowed to teach what you have learned to others, otherwise you will be punished by losing 0.5 of your strength, the system said gravely. Mag raised an eyebrow. I work my A*s off every day. He had been tempted to take her up on the offer, but the system put a damper on him right away. You're just a rookie cook. You've only mastered 3 dishes. You don't have what it takes to be a teacher. The people here are crazy about my Rigiamo and Young Joe fried rice, and the tofu pudding has led to a fight between 2 10th-tier magic casters. You call me a rookie cook? And are you saying I can teach others how to cook when I have mastered more dishes? Asked Mag. Upgrade the restaurant first, and then you'll know the answer to your question. The system was using every way possible to try to talk him into upgrading the restaurant. No. You can keep the answer to yourself, replied Mag. The last thing he wanted was getting his strength weakened. Thank you, Mia, but I can handle it, he said to his waitress. He wasn't very confident that she could be of much help, since his work needed a lot of skills and experience. Yabimiya nodded, and didn't insist. She had pretty much figured out how he was. Okay. Please tell me when you need me to do anything. I will. Mag put on the apron. He would sell tofu pudding tonight, so he had more preparations to make. New mission: make sure each person can only buy up to 1 bowl of tofu pudding each meal for 10 consecutive days. You will be given a shot at the lucky draw after you complete the mission. For a moment, Mag froze. He had never expected the system would limit the sale of tofu pudding. Why would it do such a thing? It doesn't make sense. Mag frowned. I don't think it's a good idea. It may ruin the reputation I've been trying to build, he said. And what's this lucky draw thing? It's a thoughtful decision that I've made. The lucky draw spinner is specifically designed to stimulate your enthusiasm. After you finish your mission, you may get a chance at the lucky draw spinner with wonderful prizes: cake recipe, ice cream recipe, wine recipe, strength, etc. Mag's eyes lit up. Amy would love ice cream. No child can say no to it. The wine recipe was also tempting. He wasn't an alcoholic, but it wouldn't hurt to drink a little before bed. The most exciting prize was strength, of course. In a few days, he would be able to procure 10,000 gold coins to buy 0.5 strength and become as strong as a normal man. If he could get another 0.5 strength from this mission, he would be strong enough to wield a sword. With the skills in his head, he might be able to protect himself. The prizes are somewhat acceptable, Mag said coolly. But why don't you change the mission to, like, selling 1,000 bowls of tofu pudding? Let me explain it to you, young man. Many people will feel depressed if they don't get what they come here for, especially after waiting for a long time. Mag fell silent. He had noticed this problem too. He could serve his customers Yongzhou fried rice whenever they ordered during opening hours. However, the same thing could not be said about Rigiemo. He wasn't able to prepare enough dough to make Rigiemos for everybody. Some customers had to go back empty-bellied and disappointed. There was one customer who had never got to eat one Rigiemo even though he had come every day for 3 days. He couldn't come early because of his work. Mag felt so sorry every time he saw him leave with sorrowful eyes. He could prepare over 200 bread loaves for each meal, and that would be enough for everyone who wanted to eat Rigiemo if they were limited to 1 Rigiemo each. But, people like Harrison and SAHDR needed a lot more than one. It would be a torture to allow them one each meal. The system continued: the soybeans are planted in rich soil in the depths of the twilight forest owned by Orcs, high in protein. They get as much as 14 hours of sunlight every day. No pesticides are used. Nanobots take care of all the pests. The protein content in these soybeans is 5 times higher than in normal ones. Rich in vitamins and minerals, they're very beneficial for the skin. But, too much protein may be too difficult for some people to digest. This tofu pudding is 5 times more nutritious. Mag asked, surprised. 4.5 times, to be exact. Then why didn't you stop me when I gave Amy and the kitten each 2 bowls to eat? Mag said, suddenly feeling anxious. Don't worry. 2 bowls aren't too much. Besides, they are growing. They need more protein. Mag sighed with relief. This stingy system is pretty reliable when it needs to be, he thought to himself. I should be able to buy the strength in 2 days. How much is next 0.5 strength? 50,000 gold coins. Mag was taken aback. You must be out of your mind. It had taken him almost half a month to save 10,000 gold coins. He needed more than a month to procure 50,000 even if he cut back on spending. The second 0.5 strength was 5 times more expensive than the first, which meant the third would be even more expensive. His business was good, but not good enough for him to improve his strength in the short term. I never recommended you buy it, the system said. You need to focus on your mission, not on making money. Certain things are expected of you if you want to become the god of cookery. You have a high chance of improving your strength by completing missions, and it's the only proper way. Is it? Said Mag, incredulous. Yes. But I can always sell you if you really want to buy it. Mag curled his upper lip. I knew it. He thought a moment as he looked at the shining mission in his head and nodded. I accept this mission. But, I don't want to see the wine recipe on the lucky wheel. Stop reading that book, Luna. It would be a pity for such a pretty girl to become a bookworm. A girl in a blue dress snatched the book from the hands of Luna, who was sitting on a bench in a pavilion in some garden. She smiled. Tell me something interesting. Living in the castle is so boring. She looked to be around 18, with a pretty oval face and beautifully arched eyebrows. She wore her hair in a neat ponytail, baring her forehead. Give it back, Vivian. I'm almost finished, Luna said with a smile, looking up at the young lady. Vivian hid the book behind her back and shook her head. No. I'll keep it for you until you come see me next time. If you give me back my book, I promise I'll come here on my next rest day. Luna held out her hand. Vivian slapped this hand, and said, as if I would believe you. You said the same thing last time, but it has been half a month since you last came here. She put the book on a stone stool and sat on it. There were several benches around the sides of the round-roofed pavilion. In the middle was a stone table with 4 stone stools. 2 plates, on which were some fruits, were on the table. Sorry. A child was sick last weekend. I tended to her for 2 days, Luna said, taking a look at her book. Is she okay now? Vivian peeled a mandarin and handed half to Luna. She then brought a segment to her own mouth. Luna gave a shake of her head. She died. She lowered her sad eyes, depressed. Vivian's hand froze. She felt sorry for her friend as she watched her staring at the mandarin in her hand. She held a segment of mandarin orange before Luna's mouth and smiled. Maybe it was a release for her. I'm sure she was happy to have you by her side during her last days. Thank you, Vivian. I feel much better now. Luna smiled, and opened her mouth to eat the mandarin. Mmm. So sweet and juicy. Taking care of children is no job for a lady. You should enjoy your days in peace and comfort in Rodu, Vivian said. Take care of yourself, or I'll write to tell your grandfather on you. Mandarins have been on the market for weeks, but I don't think she has even bought one, and she likes mandarins the most. She must have spent all her money on the children again. Luna smiled. He's over 70 years old. Don't trouble him with a mandarin orange. She poked her forehead with her finger. Apparently, she was in a good mood now. Don't worry. I'll take care of myself. I have more money this month. Oh, I do have something interesting to tell you about, or rather, someone. Ouch. Luna's poke sent her leaning back. Someone? A man? You have found your Prince Charming. Vivian's eyes were shining with curiosity. No. Luna said quickly, abashed. She found Mag mysterious and unusual, but she had never thought about marrying him. Amy's mother may come home yet, and she must be a very beautiful elf. Are you blushing? My God! I guessed right. Vivian leaned forward, staring at Luna. I'm not, and you guessed wrong. He owns a restaurant. His daughter is one of my students. Luna poked her forehead again. So he's married, Vivian said disappointedly. Then it would be wise not to get too attached to him. The Chaos School might have to let you go because of your little affair. Don't worry. I'm already married to the school, Luna said, smiling. Vivian shook her head. Trust me, you don't want to die alone. What's so interesting about him? He cooks delicious food. Vivian's face lit up immediately. Really? How delicious? As delicious as the roast suckling pig in the Friar Tavern. Why don't you go find out yourself? Luna decided to keep her in suspense. It's at the far end of the Aiden Square. The name is Mamie Restaurant. I'll have dinner there tonight. Vivian rose quickly to her feet. You know I've been grounded and that I have a banquet to attend tonight. Why do you torture me like that? You bad girl. Luna giggled. Vivian joined her laughter. Father, we are going to the restaurant where you eat every day, asked Palmer. He was in a black riding jacket, brown riding pants, and black leather boots, sitting on a white pony in a stud farm. He was looking at Joy, surprise written all over his face. On another white pony sat a boy around 3 years old, who wore his hair in a mushroom bowl. He was holding tight onto the saddle. He paused 3 seconds before he realized what was going to happen. Rainbow fried rice! Rainbow fried rice! He cried happily, waving his little hands. Smiling, Joy nodded. Yes. The owner there has a very pretty little girl. I think she's younger than you, and older than Parber. I'm sure you'll like her. He looked at his 2 sons, eyes full of love. Really? A cute little sister. Palmer said excitedly. Parber paused 3 seconds again. Big sister! Big sister, he exclaimed, waving his hands. The sun was setting. Outside the Gaia Hotel, Sally was collecting sheets. She felt good as she smelled soap on them. Boss, can I leave? I won't come back for dinner, she said to a woman sitting in a chair at the door, where she was embroidering a big golden bird. The woman seemed to be in her 40s and thin. She wore her black hair in a simple bun with a silver hairpin. She was plain-looking, but seemed very benign. She put down her work and looked up at Sally with a smile. Sure. Don't stay out too late. Sally smiled back. I won't. She took the sheets inside, walked out of the door, and nodded at her boss. She took a look at her work and left. She didn't get paid very much, but her boss was very good to her. She had provided her with food and accommodation for free. The food was bland, but she liked it bland. She liked Yongzhou fried rice much better, though. I will only eat a plate. I can earn the money in a month. Sally held tight onto her purse and quickened her pace. I owe you one, Novan. But I really have to go now. I have had enough to drink, Krasu said, waving his hand at the gate of the Chaos School. We haven't seen each other for, I think, more than 10 years, said a man in a black and white robe. I will take you to the Freers tonight. Their roast suckling pig is unbelievable. I'm sure you haven't eaten anything that good in Rodu. The man looked around 40, his hair parted neatly to the side. His square face was screaming authority, his cheeks red from drinking. I don't want no suckling pig. I'm going to eat tofu pudding tonight. Now that's an unbelievable dish. Krasu was a little drunk, but he could still remember the taste of the tofu pudding he had had in the morning. Tofu pudding one? Like pig brains and monkey brains? Novan asked. I thought you didn't like that kind of stuff. Krasu shook his head. No. It's not real brains. It tastes 1,000 times better, said the old man, smiling. You're already 80, Novan, but there's still so much for you to learn. Brandley and the administrator of the Chaos School were startled. They gazed at Krasu with a strange look on their faces. Nobody dared talk to the principal like that, not even the Lord of Chaos City or the Lord of the Grey Temple. Once, the principal had fought with the Lord of the Grey Temple over some business concerning the school. Their fight had ended up leaving a big hole in the roof of the Grey Temple, which had taken over a month to repair. In the end, it was the Lord of the Grey Temple who had compromised. But now, their principal didn't seem angry at all. Yes, Novan said, smiling. We should be able to drink together more often since you're living here now. Maybe I should go with you to try that unbelievable tofu pudding tonight. Krasu nodded. All right. He has other dishes, also amazing. Besides, the owner is my beloved disciple's father. Come on. We have to hurry. The waiting line is growing as we speak. Sir, the Lord of Chaos City has extended you an invitation to dine in his castle, the administrator said hurriedly, looking worried. Oh, I almost forgot. I won't be able to try that tofu pudding tonight, Krasu. But, you didn't make his daughter your disciple to get free food, did you? The banquet was actually a get-together of the top brass in the Grey Temple, the Castle of Chaos City, and the Chaos School. They held one every month to strengthen communication and cooperation. His presence was needed since he was the leader of the Chaos School. Do I look like a scrounger to you? Enough chit-chat. I really have to go. The old man turned around, and made for the Aiden Square. Even his daughter's meals are paid by me, he muttered to himself as he walked. Come back to bed, honey, a voice said seductively in a luxurious room. Please, baby, I can't. I'll go get dinner for you. Vicenio scurried out of the house. He placed a hand on the wall to support himself as he walked, tired and disheveled. The sun made him squint. Why is she not tired at all? That's not fair. On the bed, a voluptuous woman was leaning on her pillow. Part of her breasts was showing through the quilt. Her skin was soft and shiny, face still red. She looked at the door with bedroom eyes and smiled. My husband can last longer in bed now. Boss, why are we leaving? We have found the flaming raven's nest. It will fly back come dark. It's worth 5 rugiemos, Kill said as SAHDR strode. Mond didn't understand, either. He was holding 2 sacks in his hands. Their first quest had certainly paid off. What are we working so hard for? SAHDR asked, without stopping. For rugiemo, answered Kill and Mond. SAHDR nodded. Exactly. The restaurant is about to open. We will cash in these animals, take a bath, and then go to that restaurant. Do you want the owner to tell us they have sold out of rugiemo when we get there? No. Kill and Mond said nervously. They picked up their pace. The customers won't be very happy tonight. Mag looked at the menu in his hand, which read, tofu pudding, sweet/savory, 200 copper coins each. Please note, one person can only buy up to 1 bowl for each meal. There was noise coming from the outside. I'm told Mamie Restaurant has launched a new dish called tofu pudding, and 2 powerful magic casters have literally fought over the flavors, a man said. Really? Then I must try it. I still remember the taste of his Yongzhou fried rice. But, I have to spend my secret stash of money again. The first man said, yeah. We can only afford to eat in that restaurant several times a month. My kid will start school soon, so I have to save money for him. But, it's too difficult to quit his food. Magic casters have fought over a dish. Where's this restaurant you're talking about? The food there is as good as you say, a third voice asked. Mamie Restaurant was a hot topic these days. The fight in the morning was serving as a catalyst to promote the new dish. Many people who had never been to the restaurant were intrigued, wondering what kind of food would make 2 powerful magic casters fight. People were waiting in line before Mag's restaurant. Strangely, there were 2 lines. At the head were Krasu and Urian. They stood more than 1 meter apart, but clearly the distance was not far enough. Under Urian's feet was a big ice flower, delicate and elegant, rotating slowly. Meanwhile, by Krasu's feet flew a flaming bird, which was staring at the ice flower with vigilance. Obviously, they were combat ready, but neither would make the first move. They had confined their magic since there were innocent people around. The sweet one is the one true flavor of tofu pudding, Krasu said gravely, banging his staff on the ground. To hell with the sweet one. I love the savory one, said Urian, his voice harsh to the ear. They were staring at each other. For an instant, it seemed they were on the brink of fighting, but then they looked away. The other customers let out a sigh of relief. They might have been killed if they had fought so close to them. Waiting in line could be very dangerous sometimes. The customer who stood the closest to them was 2 meters away, but the other people didn't complain. They could totally understand. The frost dragon had struck fear into their hearts. They hadn't tried tofu pudding before, but somehow they had chosen their sides. The door wouldn't open for another half hour. Dozens were waiting. One line was as long as the other. The hostility between Krasuo and Urian might have affected the others. The air seemed to be getting tense. "Hey man, why are there 2 lines?" Moyashi asked a guy waiting in the line. He had come with his friend Andreas. "Sweet and savory. Take your pick." Moyashi understood immediately as he saw Urian and Krasuo. "I like the savory one too," he said, holding out his hand. "Oh, hello." The man shook his hand. "He prefers the sweet one," Moyashi said, pointing at his friend. The savory tofu pudding guys all looked to Andreas. "Easy, guys." Andreas flinched in fright. "Hey, you don't need to be afraid of them," said a strong man in the other line. The other people in the same line looked at him encouragingly. Andreas felt secure now. He joined the line. More people were coming by the minute. Some wanted to try both, but no one was courageous enough to start a third waiting line beside the 2 old magic casters. Sally was startled when she espied the people lined up. She had veiled her face with a silk scarf. It has become so popular after only a few days? Sally stopped, hesitant. "I have to wait with so many humans, dwarves, orcs, and maybe I have to share a table with them." She had dined with a dwarf in this restaurant, but this was a different matter entirely. So many are waiting, and there are bound to be more when it opens. Will I be able to eat with a dwarf and an orc by my side? Sally thought to herself. The restaurant seems to be very busy. Beautiful things never go unnoticed, Luna said as she stopped to look at the lines. Apparently, her worries that the restaurant might not attract many customers because of the prices had turned out to be groundless. "I can always take out." Sally couldn't resist the delicious Yangzhou fried rice. She clenched her fist, and walked towards the lines. "Maybe they have new dishes now." Luna smiled, and made for the restaurant. "Ladies, sweet or savory?" a young man asked as he looked at Luna and Sally. Other people saw the 2 girls too, and they liked what they were seeing. Luna was in her light grey linen cotton dress with long black hair, as beautiful as the lily flower embroidered on her scarf. Sally was wearing a silver dress with a golden hem, tall and slender. She had beautiful collarbones and nice calves. Her face was covered, but one could tell from her eyes and ears that she was a pretty elf. They were wondering which side the 2 young ladies would choose. Luna and Sally exchanged a confused glance. They didn't understand. "What do you mean?" "I'm here to eat," Luna said. She had planned to have a plate of Yangzhou fried rice here and then order a Rujiamo to go to eat in her quarters where no one could see her. Sally was also lost, but she didn't say anything. She didn't want any unnecessary attention. With so many people here, there was a high chance that she might be recognized, which was the last thing she wanted. "Oh, you didn't know," the young man said. "They're selling a new dish tonight, tofu pudding, and it comes in 2 flavors, sweet and savory. See the 2 magic casters at the head of the lines? They fought in the morning over the flavors. Now they understood why there were 2 waiting lines." Luna recognized the old man with white hair who had a white robe on at once. "Lord Krasuo. Why is he here?" Her grandfather visited Krasuo every year, and he had brought her with him once when she was little. Sally saw the flaming bird and ice flower, and sensed the 2 old men's formidable strength. Such strong magic waves! "I don't think father is as powerful as them." She had never met anyone so powerful besides the elf queen. She was a 7th-tier magic caster herself, but she let her bow talk most of the time. "I don't know what tofu pudding is, but I think I'll choose the savory one. Luna nodded at Sally, and walked to her waiting line. Sally obviously liked the sweet one better as she picked the other line. Mag is really a great cook, Luna thought as she watched the two lines growing. She smiled. She didn't mind sharing a table with other species. She was a teacher, and teachers had to treat all students equally, no matter the species. Novan never allowed prejudice in his school. Once, a teacher had been fired because she had called one of her dwarf students a shorty. She was the granddaughter of an official who occupied a high position in the Grey Temple. Later, this official had come to the principal's office to press him to rehire his granddaughter. Then, the office exploded. People from the Grey Temple came and found the official in the rubble. They carried him back, and he never attended the get-together banquet again. He was still angry, or perhaps he got scared. The Chaos School was running smoothly, and it was largely because of Novan, who had always been strict with teachers and kind and generous to students. That was why Luna went to that school in the first place. She liked it there. She liked having children from different species and different classes sitting in the same classroom. She cherished their innocent laughter and carefree smiles. She would love to see schools like that grow everywhere. She would gladly dedicate her life to make it happen. People in the waiting lines were chatting since there was nothing better to do. Conversations were friendly between people in the same line, but not so friendly between people in the different lines. "Why do you like the sweet one, Andreas?" "Only kids like sweet stuff," Moyashi said, smiling a sarcastic smile. Instantly, he felt so many unkind eyes on him. Even Krasu had turned to give him a cold glance. "Sorry," Moyashi withdrew in fright. He had only wanted to tease his friend, but his bad joke got himself in trouble with everybody in the other line. Krasu's eyes scared the hell out of him. "Well said. Too much sweet stuff will make you fat." "Yes, and saltiness is the most important taste. You can't live without salt." Other voices echoed his sentiment. The savory tofu pudding people were looking at Moyashi with admiration. "Sweetness makes you feel happy, and saltiness. I'm sure you know the expression rub salt in the wound," a middle-aged man said. He was wearing a black long gown, and looked like a bookkeeper. "Yet, people who have a sweet tooth are blessed. Salty tofu pudding? Yuck." The atmosphere was getting more and more tense as they bickered. Ting! The bell over the door rang. They fell silent and looked to the door, wondering. Were we too loud? Or does it open earlier tonight? Out of the door came a little stool first, and then they saw Amy and Ugly Duckling. They were all staring at the two little things, puzzled. Amy put the stool down, sat on it with the kitten in her arms, and looked up at the two lines of people. She froze for an instant when she noticed so many people were gazing at her. "Go on. Don't mind us. We're just here to watch," she said, beckoning them to continue. The looks on their faces became strange. They had never seen that coming. They were so surprised by this turn of events that they didn't know how to continue. "A half-elf girl?" a man asked. "She's the owner's daughter. Isn't she cute?" The first man nodded. "I don't like hybrids, but, to be fair, she is really cute." Many other customers nodded their agreement. They were a little irritated, but Amy's big blue eyes quelled their anger. Luna smiled, her eyes full of love as she looked at Amy. She has become happier and more confident. Mag is doing a great job taking care of her. Amy was only 4, but she hadn't acted like a child before, since she had had to take care of her father as well as herself. She had been timid and a pitiful sight. Everything about her was different now. She was clean and wore good clothes, but more importantly, her eyes were lively and full of hope. Luna was happy to see she was now as naughty and innocent as children her age should be. "What's this strange feeling?" Sally wondered as she looked at Amy. "The way she talks seems so familiar to me." Amy took a look at the flaming bird and ice flower. Master Halfbeard, Master Turtle, are you going to fight again? No, the two old men said. The bird turned into a little flame and then vanished, while the ice flower cracked, leaving nothing but a puddle of water on the ground. The tension in the air was gone. Every other customer was relieved and grateful to the little girl. Actually, I don't mind if you fight, Amy said disappointedly. The two old men gave a wry smile. Anyway, I think I will get my chance since you see each other very often. Krasue allowed himself a dry smile. This girl has as vile a tongue as Irina. But, Irina has no girl that I know of. Amy reminded Urian of Irina too. She had loved to encourage them to fight more than anything, and she had even cheered them on while sitting on a little stool. Teacher Luna. Amy said when she spotted Luna, waving at her. Luna waved back with a smile. She always maintained a cold manner except in school or towards children. Big Sister Elf. She noticed Sally too. Although she had only seen her once, she still remembered her since she was the first elf she had ever met, and the first to tell her that she would become as beautiful as her. Sally nodded. She had worried that Amy might shout out her name, but it seemed Amy had probably forgotten. After she said hello to everyone she knew, Amy sat back on her little stool, resting her chin in her hands. The kitten stuck out its little head from between Amy's arms, regarding the crowd with curiosity. It had got used to seeing so many strange faces since it watched them come and go every day. Some people decided the silence had lasted long enough. They resumed the topic. Soon, they started bickering enthusiastically again, even though they hadn't got the slightest clue what tofu pudding was. Whoa, Amy clapped her hands. She didn't know what they were talking about, but she still found them amusing. Ugly Duckling looked around curiously, clapping its paws. Boss, I think they're having a quarrel. Should we intervene? Yabimiya said as Mag was eating his fried rice unhurriedly. Mag shook his head with a smile. Don't worry. You should look at this as a little entertainment during work. He took a look at his customers through the window. The foodies here are really interesting. They're quarreling over something they haven't even tried. After finishing his meal, Mag took a look at the time. He still had 5 minutes. He cleared the table, and turned to Yabimiya. Tell Amy dinner is ready. And remember, one person can only order 1 bowl of tofu pudding. Yabimiya nodded. Yes, boss. She didn't know why, but she trusted Mag. Amy walked back in with Ugly Duckling and the stool, her eyes shining with excitement when she saw 2 bowls of tofu pudding and a rigiamo. Go wash your hands. Eat your meal after they come in, said Mag, smiling. Okay. Amy put the kitten on the floor, trotted into the kitchen, stepped on the stool, and washed her hands. Then she ran back to her table and picked up the spoon excitedly. Mag opened the door. Welcome to Mamie Restaurant, he said with a smile, looking at the 2 long lines which extended into the square. There were over 100 people, and they were still bickering. Some seemed quite irritated by the look of their faces. The good part was they never went beyond exchanging words, or else there would be a pandemonium. Krasue and Urian were standing in the front, motionless and expressionless. The noise made Mag frown. Squabbling online was nothing compared to this. There were magic casters, demons, knights, and orcs. If they started fighting, it would be a disaster. Maybe I should set up a ring for them to settle their disputes. Mag turned to look at his daughter who was waiting expectantly. At least Amy would like that. The noise of bickering dwindled. The reason they started quarreling in the first place was because it was boring waiting in the line. They stopped now that the restaurant was open. Perhaps they would start again after they tried the food and collected enough evidence to back up their opinions. Please come in. Mag held the door open. He wanted no part in their argument, and he wouldn't let them blame him for offering 2 different flavors. Krasue and Urian exchanged a glance and walked in side by side. Neither would let the other walk in front of him. After they entered, they made for their usual tables. "Good evening, Master Halfbeard, Master Turtle," said Amy. "Good evening," they replied. Then they were immediately attracted by the 2 bowls of tofu pudding. The bowls were bigger than the ones in the morning. A delicious smell was floating out of the kitchen. The other customers walked in the same way the 2 old men had done. Luna put her foot back down when she noticed Sally had lifted hers at the same time. "After you," she said, beckoning her to go first. "Thank you," Sally said, casting a surprised glance at Luna, and entered the restaurant. Mag recognized her at first glance even with her scarf over her face. Seeing that she said nothing, Mag just nodded. "Good evening, Mag," Luna said. "Good evening, Luna." Mag nodded with a smile. He hadn't expected to see her here tonight. "I'll have 2 plates of Yangzhou fried rice and 1 Rigiamo, Mag," Vicenio said weakly, leaning on the door. Mag nodded. "Sure. Come on in." His woman sure knows how to drain a man, Mag thought to himself as he looked at Vicenio's pale face. Vicenio moved in slowly and took a seat. Even walking was a difficult task for him now. All of the customers had entered. Some would rather stand than share a table with others. After a short while, no seat was left vacant. They had to form a new line before the counter, which had extended well out of the door. Fortunately, the aisle was wide, they wouldn't disturb other people. Luna took a seat opposite to Sally, and soon 2 more women came and sat at their table. Sally was relieved, since Luna seemed well-mannered. She could enjoy her meal here after all. "I'd like a bowl of sweet tofu pudding and a Rigiamo." "I'll have a bowl of savory tofu pudding and a plate of Yangzhou fried rice." "I'd like a savory one and a sweet one." "I want to know which is better." Yabimiya started taking orders. "Sorry. Each person can only order 1 bowl of tofu pudding," the young waitress said. "Oh, I see." A man opened the menu and saw the note. He was surprised when he noticed it was cheaper than Rigiamo. "I'll have the savory one, then." They spotted Amy and the 2 bowls while they were waiting for their orders. Tofu pudding was lying in the 2 white bowls, white as jade, looking elastic. One had syrup on it, and the other was sprinkled with chopped sides. The delicious smells were making their mouths water. "This must be the tofu pudding," a bald man said. Amy nodded. "Yes." "Is it good?" he asked curiously. Other customers craned their necks to listen. Some didn't want to spend 200 copper coins on something they practically knew nothing about. "You want to know?" Amy asked, waving the spoon as if inviting him to try the food. He nodded. "Yes. Then I'll tell you after I try it." Amy scooped a spoonful of savory tofu pudding. It was decorated with orange-red sauce and chopped zha-cai, and kept shaking. It melted right away when she brought it into her mouth. She didn't even need to chew. Her blue eyes went wide as she savored the delicious taste. She gave a blissful look after she swallowed. Then she nodded at the bald man. "It's really very good." There were loud sounds of people swallowing saliva. Then, Amy dropped her gaze back to the food, and spooned another spoonful into her mouth, her body swinging in delight. She put down the spoon, picked up the Rigiamo, and ate it. She took a bite of tofu pudding, and then a bite of Rigiamo, smiling all the while. The bald man had never seen that coming. Amy was killing him with that delicious tofu pudding. Some people were starting to suspect that Mag was making Amy eat here on purpose. Nonetheless, they were unable to tear their eyes away from her or keep their mouths from watering. "Looks like tofu pudding goes great with Rigiamo." "Excuse me. I'll have a Rigiamo." "Me too." Mag's little trick worked. The sight of Amy eating her food was enough to raise their expectations. Many people began ordering Rigiamo. "See? Little owner likes the savory one too. Because it is much better. And it goes well with Rigiamo. I'll bet the sweet one will make Rigiamo taste awful," a young man said. I like the sweet one, and I think no one forces you to eat it with Rigiamo, a demon said coldly, looking at the young man with his red eyes. Okay, the young man said, frightened. Waiting for their orders was kind of boring. They started arguing again now that they knew what the food looked like. It looks good, Sally thought as she stared at Amy and the two bowls before her. The one with syrup must be the sweet one. He made the syrup with honey? It looks even more viscous than the honey from the wind forest. The sweet one must be very tasty. Sally became expectant. She liked sweets. Sadly, the female cook hired by her family only knew how to cook several kinds of sweets, and she liked honey better than the sweets she made. Then she saw the Rigiamo in Amy's hands. I don't think I can eat anything that greasy. She opened the menu and frowned as she saw the price of tofu pudding. She had to work a month to earn enough money to buy a plate of Yangzhou fried rice. And now, there was this tofu pudding. She was blessed with a long life since she was an elf, but a decent meal every month wasn't quite the life she had expected when she left home. She had made a promise to herself that she would travel the whole continent with a dozen dragon coins like the elf princess had done. She had arrived at her first stop, Chaos City, and she had worked hard for over 10 days, but the money she had earned was not even enough for a plate of Yangzhou fried rice. She was unable to resist the food. She was stuck here. She could feel her dreams drifting away. She thought she could hear a voice in her head saying, "Work, work, work." Luna watched with a smile as Amy ate. Seems like the savory one is good. But what if I make that sound again if I eat it with Rigiamo? May I take your orders? Yabimiya said, gazing at Luna and Sally in admiration. She had never seen even one customer as beautiful as them. Growing up in a greasy kitchen, all she ever wanted was to become a pretty lady with slender and beautiful hands like them. She looked down and hid her coarse hands behind the menu. I'd like a plate of Yangzhou fried rice, Sally said, looking up at Yabimiya with envy. This half-dragon girl wasn't here when I last came. How lucky of her to work here. She can have at least one plate of Yangzhou fried rice for free every day, I think. But I have to work for a month to buy her work lunch. I eat noodles with vegetables every day. Life is so unfair. Sally raised her voice. And a bowl of sweet tofu pudding, she added as if she was making a hard decision. Yabimiya nodded. Sure. Then she turned to face Luna. Are you ready to order, miss? Yes. I'll have a bowl of savory tofu pudding, and, Luna remembered the feeling of when she first ate Rigiamo as she looked at the almost finished Rigiamo in Amy's hands. And a Rigiamo. Yabimiya nodded. Okay. Then she went on taking orders. I'll make more money if I work harder, Sally thought, clenching her fist. Then she looked toward the kitchen. I wonder if he needs more waitresses here. Mag took a look at the people who were watching Amy eat. She would be very popular if she could eat live online. He smiled and poured the hot syrup on the tofu pudding. He was very pleased with his little trick. 2 savory ones and 2 sweet ones. Do not recommend the flavor to them, Mag said to the young waitress. She nodded obediently. Yes, boss. She picked up the tray and walked out of the kitchen. Amy gave a burp, and put down the bowl, which had been licked clean. She stuck out her tongue to try to lick the syrup off her nose, but failed. She raised her eyes, and found they were still staring at her. The savory one is delicious, and so is the sweet one. However, most of them were so stubborn. A child's opinion would never sway their decision. Be quiet in our restaurant and don't disturb others, she said. I'll set you on fire if you don't follow the rules here. She held out her little hand, and then a bluish-violet flame rose up, dwindled, and turned into a little fireball. Your tofu pudding, please enjoy, Yabimiya said, putting down the food. Amy's fireball was screaming danger, they could feel its heat even from a distance. Cute as she was, she had burned Krasu's beard and defeated SAHDR's. They didn't want to mess with her. They didn't want to get themselves banned at this restaurant. They lowered their voices. Now they could hear the soft sound dishes made when they touched the table and Yabimiya's energetic voice. The smells in the air became stronger. Luna looked at Amy and smiled. She's very helpful. Then she glanced through the menu and saw the rules. Looks like he has something in common with Novan. They might become friends. Then there was a sound of swallowing saliva, too loud in this quiet atmosphere. They turned to look, and felt envious when they saw Habeng and his savory tofu pudding. Habeng gave a smile. Time to eat. He picked up the spoon. He had got the fourth bowl of tofu pudding since he was the fourth one in. Krasu spooned some tofu pudding into his mouth. The sweet tofu pudding goes perfectly with Yangzhou fried rice, he exclaimed, savoring the wonderful taste. Urian took a bite of rujiamo, and then a bite of savory tofu pudding. This combination tastes real great. The rujiamo was working its magic on him, making him feel less hunched. How did he make it so watery? A rich-looking middle-aged man thought to himself, surprised. He brought another spoonful into his mouth. The intoxicating sweetness made him forget about everything else. I like this. Habeng said. His spoon went up and down as he gave a blissful smile. The customers stopped arguing, waiting patiently for their orders. They were too preoccupied with the food and expectant right now to argue. Those who had already had their food served were purring like kittens as they ate. Others were looking excitedly in the direction of the kitchen. Peace and quiet had been restored again. Thank you, Amy said as the fireball vanished. She patted Ugly Duckling on its head, and the little thing understood and slid down along her leg right away. She climbed off the chair, stood on tips of her toes to pick up the two bowls, and walked towards the kitchen. Where should I put them, Father? Amy asked, holding them securely in her hands. Here, let me have them. Mag put the bowls in the sink and smiled. She has helped keep the order here, and she has done it without offending them. I don't think anyone could do such a fantastic job other than she. Can you teach me how to cook, Father? Amy asked as she looked at the kitchenware, expectant. Mag was taken by surprise. You want to learn to cook? Amy nodded solemnly. Yes. Father's food has made many people like you. I want to be liked by many people too. Silly girl. Many people like you even if you know nothing about cooking, Mag said, smiling. You're not tall enough to work the wok now. I will teach you when you're taller than the cooking bench, so try to eat more and get taller. Amy was a little disappointed for a while, but then she got over it quickly. She walked up to the cooking bench and looked up. It was about 10 centimeters taller than her. Just you wait. I'll become taller than you in no time. Mag shook his head with a smile as he looked at his cute little girl. Amy stayed and watched for a while before getting back to her usual chair again. Please enjoy, Yabimiya said as she put down a bowl of sweet tofu pudding and a bowl of savory tofu pudding before Sally and Luna, respectively. The soft thing shook a little, but maintained its shape. The two girls were attracted by the food. A smile touched the corners of their mouths as they breathed in the delicious smells. Luna picked up her spoon and gave Sally a curious glance. She'll surely remove her veil. A middle-aged elf in the waiting line was also looking at Sally, squinting as if thinking about something of importance. Sally was too engrossed in the food to notice anything else. She removed her scarf and put it away. Then, she scooped some in her spoon and gazed at it with surprise. She's so beautiful. Luna thought to herself. The middle-aged elf's eyes went wide. She's here. Then he covered his mouth hurriedly and lowered his head, hiding behind an orc in front of him. Luna dropped her gaze back to her food. Her manners told her not to stare at other people when they were eating. She sank her spoon into the tofu pudding, and it cut through the pudding like it was nothing but water. The white and soft tofu pudding was shaking in her spoon, with a little jasai and a dried shrimp on top, Luna's eyes were shining with surprise. It's beautiful. The dried shrimp looked almost transparent. The pleasant smell made her mouth water. Please try it, Teacher Luna. It's very good, Amy said with Ugly Duckling in her arms. Luna nodded. All right. She brought the food into her mouth gracefully, and then her eyes widened. It liquefied as soon as she took a bite. It was much tenderer than the eggs in Yangzhou fried rice. It was very watery, and went through her teeth like milk. The savory jacai and shrimp really added fullness to the taste. She felt like she was in heaven. She felt as if she were a child again, as if she were playing in the soft cloud, and then a wave came and splashed some cool water on her face. She swallowed, and her eyes were still closed. Savoring the taste lingering in her mouth, she smiled. The taste brought her back to her childhood. My childhood friends, how are they doing? Maybe I should go home this Peace Memorial Festival. I haven't seen them for 3 years. Luna opened her eyes and took another bite, lost in her memories. Sally took a look at Luna, and then focused her eyes on the food before her. It was like steamed egg custard, only more elastic. She scooped some. The spoon left a white hole in the tofu pudding, and then the red syrup slid right into it. The tofu pudding covered by syrup shook a little in her spoon, delicate like a piece of art. It smells of flowers. This syrup may have honey in it. Sally was a little surprised. She brought the spoon into her mouth quickly. It was so soft and watery. The sweetness of the syrup and the delicious taste of the tofu pudding blended perfectly in her mouth, bringing a smile to her face. I was right. It has honey in it, and sugar too. It's sweet, but not too sweet. I like it. The Valley of Flowers was located in the wind forest. It was warm there, with a lot of flowers and bees. She liked searching for honeycombs there because they were much sweeter than elsewhere. It was Irina who had taught her how to find honeycombs. When she was little, she had always tagged along wherever the princess went. In her eyes, the princess could do anything, and was the prettiest and the most powerful. She would take her searching for honeycombs and stealing spirit fruits. When the princess left for Rodu, she said she would scribble a little something on the wall of the famous Magus Tower. After she came back, she got grounded for 15 days. It was said she had written, "The elf princess was here." It was really an impressive deed. Although the tower was in Rodu, the elf magic casters also held it in high regard. After all, not every magic caster had a chance to enter that place. Several years later, the princess packed up and left home with a dozen dragon coins, leaving a letter on her table. She had been gone for over 10 years. She had traveled to the Twilight Forest, the Demon Islands, and the Dragon Islands. She had left her footprints all over the continent. Many young elves looked up to her as their role model. And Sally was one of them. She envied her way of living. 3 years ago, she was told the princess had been brought back by the queen herself. Then she stayed in the cave with the Tree of Life, and Sally had never seen her again. She had no idea what had happened to her. The princess was like a changed person, and would talk to no one but her maid, Firis. She had spent a lot of time with the Tree of Life when she was little, and the tree had been nice only to her since she was born. Sally hadn't seen her for a long while, but she had followed in her footsteps, which was why she had only had a dozen dragon coins on her and left all her valuable jewelry home. It turned out she might have overestimated herself since she had got stuck here, in Chaos City. Why does the honey in this syrup taste familiar? Sally wondered. Very few elves would look for honey in the Valley of Flowers, and even less would sell it. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, he certainly has chosen the ingredients carefully. The tastes are wonderful. Sally took another bite, savoring the food slowly. This was the second time she was this happy after she left home, and the first was when she had Yangzhou fried rice. Good food could indeed make people happy. Big Sister Elf, it's very tasty, isn't it? Amy asked, smiling. Sally turned to look at her. For an instant, she froze. She now realized why she would have had that strange feeling of familiarity. The little girl was just as vicious-tongued as Irina, who had liked to nickname other people when she was little. And she had nicknamed her Slug. To be fair, it had been nowhere near accurate. Such a classy restaurant. But it was not here last time I came here, Parmer said, surprised. Big sister. Rainbow fried rice. Parber exclaimed. Clapping his hands, he trotted towards the glass window and bumped into it. He took 2 steps back, looking puzzled. Jaoi hurried over to his boy. Oh, sweetheart, are you hurt? Part of him was worried, while the other part wanted to laugh at his kid's adorable stupidity. The customers by the window got startled at first, but then they couldn't help but smile when they saw the cute little boy. Why can't I get in, father? Parber asked. 'Cause you're standing in front of a large sheet of crystal glass, Jaoi replied, smiling. He picked up his small hand and put it on the crystal glass. You can feel it, right? It's transparent. Everything can be easily seen through it. Parber touched and patted the cool glass, and then smiled. Crystal glass. Crystal glass. Big sister. Seems like he can't wait to get in and play with the big sister, Harrison said, smiling. Then he turned to Parmer, and wrapped his arm around his shoulder. What about you, math genius? Are you excited? Why would I be excited? But I don't mind teaching her a little math if she's cute, Parmer said with his arms crossed. Harrison gave a nod, and patted him on the shoulder. Oh, you're so generous. Come on. Time for dinner. Mag's business is really booming. With his cooking skills, I don't think there are still seats available right now, said Jaoi. He took Parber's hand in his and entered. No sooner had Jaoi walked in than he noticed the new dish in front of almost every customer. It was white and soft with different toppings, and he liked the new smell floating in the air. Hey, man, what is this dish that you're eating? Harrison asked a guy sitting by the door. It's called tofu pudding. Amazing food. You should try the savory one. It's just unbelievable, the guy said, giving a thumbs up. No, try the sweet one. Trust me, you won't regret it, another guy said. Harrison turned to the kids and smiled. You're very lucky, kids. You get to try a new dish tonight. Then, he and Jaoi took the 2 boys to the end of the waiting line. Parma's attention was attracted by the paintings on the wall. Marvelous Rotu, majestic dragon islands, dreamy wind forest, knights on horses, flying dragons, magic casters. Every painting was so strange yet riveting. Rainbow fried rice. Big sister. Parber said, looking around as if looking for something. The 2 adorable kids attracted many eyes, especially the smaller one with hair in a mushroom bowl. Mere sight of him was enough to make people smile. Big sister! Big sister! Parber exclaimed merrily, eyes shining in delight. When Parmer turned to look where his brother was looking, he saw Amy. He froze, his eyes wide. Finally, he said, "Why are you here?" Amy was also a little surprised, but apparently she was calmer. "This is my father's restaurant." "Why is this your father's restaurant?" "Because he is the owner, I guess." Parmer felt insulted. He swallowed to calm himself down. He had been very upset since the day they competed in class. The writing today had helped a lot, but now he found himself feeling nervous. "So you have met?" Jaoi asked, surprised. He had planned to introduce her. "She is the one who beat me in math the other day," Parmer admitted reluctantly. Jaoi and Harrison exchanged a wry look. They had never seen this coming. It was all they could do not to laugh. Mag took a look at them. "So he's Jaoi's son. No wonder I found his face familiar. Thankfully, he's not as fat as his old man. The smaller one must be his second son." Big sister, hugs. Parber said in his childish voice, extending his arms, walking towards the counter. Sorry, but you're too heavy, Amy said, looking down at him from her chair. Parber stood there, frozen. He looked up at Amy in confusion. The customers couldn't help but laugh. Mag shook his head with a smile. Amy's only 4, and not much taller than him. There's no way she can pick him up. But, maybe she should have said that less bluntly. At last, the little boy understood. He turned to his father, aggrieved, as if about to cry. The big sister said no hugs. Jaoi opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say to comfort his little boy. Now, his 2 sons were both in a bad mood. Shouldn't you say something? Harrison asked in a whisper. I'm afraid I'll only make it worse, my brother isn't heavy. Parber said angrily, stepping between Amy and Parber. Brother, Parber cowered behind Parber. Yeah, right. Then why don't you go ahead and pick him up? Amy said coolly. I will. He turned to look at his brother. Brother, hugs. Hugs. Parber said, extending his arms, excited and happy again. The customers were all looking at Parber now, wondering what he would do. Parber looked older than Amy, and was handsome in his horse-riding clothes. He must have inherited his looks from his mother. They were all looking forward to witnessing the sweet scene of him holding his brother. Sorry, Parber. Maybe another time, Parber said, frowning. You've got fat recently. The little boy looked like he was on the brink of crying. I hate you, brother. How can you say I'm fat? He pouted. A girl burst out laughing. Luckily, she wasn't eating. She covered her mouth and continued laughing. Parber felt abashed and aggrieved. He had intended to speak up for his little brother, but ended up getting disliked. Parber had really got fat. Parber used to be able to carry him on his back, but now, he was not sure his back was strong enough to carry him again. Amy looked at Parber, and then at Parber. He's only a child. He's just chubby, not fat. Why is she accusing me? She should be blamed as much as me. But when he saw his brother's watery eyes, his face softened right away. He patted Parber on the head. Sorry, Parber. I'll be able to carry you when I'm taller and stronger. Parber's smile returned immediately. Amy nodded, relieved. You're both good kids. Parber turned to look at Amy strangely. Aren't you a kid yourself? Go wait in the line. Don't talk loud or run in the restaurant. You'll be spanked if you disturb other people, Amy said solemnly. Spanked? Worried, Parber looked around nervously. You can't spank me. Parber said, clenching his fists. Maybe I can't, but Blue Fatty can. Amy looked at Joy. Parber raised an eyebrow. Blue Fatty? My father. He looked to his father for support. She's talking about basic manners you should know, Joy said gravely to his sons. If you behave badly, I will spank you. Then he gave Amy a kind smile. Girls are better than boys. The 2 brothers exchanged a glance, suddenly afraid. Big sister. I like big sisters, Parber said, looking at Amy. But I like little sisters, said Amy. Parber cried after all, tears welled in his eyes. She doesn't like me. I want to become a girl, and then she'll like me. Don't be such a crybaby. You'll become a man one day, and men never cry, Amy said. Parber stopped crying right away. There were still tears in his eyes, though. Come on, Parber. His brother picked up his little hand. It seems your plan of making them become friends has failed, Harrison said. Joy nodded, and managed a wry smile. Mag's daughter is so smart. When I have a daughter, I'll teach her to stay away from boys too. Meow. Ugly Duckling woke up and gave a cry. Parber's eyes went wide. An orange cat. He trotted up to Amy, and looked up at her with longing. "Big sister, can I hold it?" "She'll never let you hold it," Parmer said with certainty. The customers were all looking at Amy. They had never seen anyone else hold the kitten before, so they thought the little boy might get disappointed again. Amy paused a moment as she looked at Parber, who still had streaks of tears on his face. She handed the kitten over. "Here. Be careful not to drop it. It has got fat too." "I'm just chubby, not fat." Ugly Duckling thought sullenly to itself. "Is it just me, or can this tofu pudding make scars fade?" a woman said delightedly. Parber nodded. "Fat kitten," he extended his arms to take it. The customers were astonished. They had thought she would say something hurtful and never let him touch the kitten, but she was acting like a sweet big sister now. It was the first time they had seen the softer side of her. Parber smiled happily, holding the kitten in his arms. "I knew that deep down she's kind and nice." Mag smiled. He had worried that Amy might have trouble making friends because of her acid tongue, but it had turned out she was doing just fine. Looks like Parmer still hasn't got over the frustration from the other day. He is so competitive, Luna thought, looking at Parmer. Then she smiled when she turned to look at Amy and Parber. "Atta girl. You're still that same kind child who used to share pancakes with others. Seems like we don't need to intervene, after all. Sometimes, it's best for the kids to work out their own problems," Joy said in a low voice, relieved. Parmer stood frozen. She gave the kitten to Parber. "Didn't she just say mean things to us?" He blushed. He had just said so confidently that she would never let Parber hold it. "Meow. Meow." Ugly Duckling cried unhappily, trying to get away. "Stop squirming, Ugly Duckling!" Amy called. The kitten looked up, and when it saw Amy's angry eyes, it lowered its head right away and stopped struggling. "Look! My scars are really fading," the woman from before exclaimed delightedly, her cheeks a little red from excitement. She was around 30, brown-haired, wearing a purplish-green dress and an emerald necklace, looking plain but rich. She had rolled up her sleeves, bearing her horrible scars, which were very unpleasant to look at, but she was staring at them excitedly. "Oh, are they, Lucia?" said the woman opposite her, surprised. Lucia nodded, all smiles. "Yes. I check them every single day. My arms felt cool when I was eating this tofu pudding. Then I rolled up my sleeves, and found the scars are fading and shrinking." She was born into a rich family. Her arms and chest had got burnt by a bronze kettle when she was little. Although her husband had been chosen by her parents, she loved him. It was a good thing he loved her too, but she was worried that he would get fed up with her ugly body and go find another girl, so she had been attempting every way possible to try to get rid of those hideous scars. However, nothing had lived up to her expectations at all. She had almost given up hope. She had come here today on the recommendation of her friend. She liked the food, of course, but more importantly, she might have found a way to rid herself of the nightmare. Sally and Luna took a look at Lucia, surprised. They were sitting at the same table. "I think she's right," Luna said, looking at her left hand. She had accidentally cut her finger while chopping vegetables the day before last. A scab had formed over the wound, and now it had come right off. The skin had healed so well that no one could believe that it had been cut just 2 days ago. "This tofu pudding can make scars fade. I think it's good for the skin too. My face feels smoother. This dish will become popular among women in no time. Oh boy! I've had this scar since I was 3, and now it's half gone." Many started checking their old scars. A happy atmosphere spread across the whole room. "I think I'll bring my wife here tomorrow. She has been going on about that scar on her hand for years," Joy said. "Mag is a real genius," said Harrison. "Young Joe fried rice can relieve fatigue, Rugiamo can make you stronger, and this tofu pudding can make scars fade." Furthermore, they are all very delicious. This place is practically a hospital. He might be a doctor or something. What? This thing can erase scars, said a middle-aged man with stubble on his face. He rose quickly to his feet and torn open his shirt nervously. On his strong chest were so many scars, old and new, big and small. There was even one near his heart. They were telling stories of how he had defied death over and over again. These scars are my pride. I need them to impress the rookies. Yoel said anxiously. Relax, buddy. You scars are still there, his friend said, smiling. Bullshit. The one left by a blue-haired wolf when I went hunting for the first time 25 years ago is gone. And so is the scar made by an orc's fang. And, Yoel told him with sorrow about all the scars that had disappeared. Don't worry, Yoel. You'll get new ones. His friend patted him on the shoulder. But I liked my old ones. They meant a lot to me. Although Yoel was already the vice leader of an adventurer group, he always liked showing off. He really enjoyed bragging to the rookie adventurers about his scars. His friend smiled. So if there were another bowl of tofu pudding in front of you, would you eat it? Yoel thought a moment and nodded. Of course I would. Even my birthmark is not so clear anymore, a voice called out. Would you do me a favor and tell me if the pits on my face are gone, said a second voice. The customers had noticed that their skin had actually got better. Yabimiya's eyes lit up when she lifted her hands before her eyes. She had been too busy to pay attention to the changes to her hands, but now she noticed that some of her old scars had vanished. The scar left by a hot walk when she was 7, the scar she had got from a dog at the age of 8. All those ugly scars were either gone or fading. If I keep eating this tofu pudding, my hands might become pretty again. Yabimiya thought to herself, excited. She had found her life miserable as she had been a lowly worker slaving away in that dark kitchen. Others had shown her no respect, so she couldn't have cared less about her hands. She was getting all the love and respect here in Mamie restaurant, and started to really live her life. It was natural for a girl to crave to be beautiful. She had been saved from her miserable life. She blamed herself for having failed to take care of her hands every time they looked at them. She didn't want to ruin their appetite. She didn't want to fail her boss. She clenched her fists. I'm sure I'll get rid of these scars and calluses if I have 2 bowls of tofu pudding every day. She strode towards the kitchen, feeling really grateful to Mag. It didn't only soften their skin, it literally gave them each a facelift. Mag was also amazed even though the system had prepared him for it. He had never expected it to be this effective. You should have told me that this tofu pudding can work wonders, system. I should have priced it at 2,000 copper coins each. Mag said to the system. This food was basically a magic bullet for people with scars, pits, birthmarks, etc. I didn't know that it would be this effective. The test result said it was rich in protein. Maybe that mysterious microelement has powerful effect on the skin. You didn't do any animal experiments. The system fell silent. At last, it said, all the ingredients are subject to 18 different tests to ensure they are edible. Don't worry. You didn't answer my question. I don't need to conduct experiments on animals. My tests are more accurate and scientific. The test results are much more reliable than those experiments involving animals as long as I have enough samples. Maybe you're experimenting on us right now, Mag said. He believed the system, though. Its database and knowledge made it more than capable of testing the edibility of food. He had to limit the selling of tofu pudding for the customer's own safety since the system had warned him of the harm in eating too much tofu pudding. Can I have another bowl of sweet tofu pudding? Krasus said with a smile, looking at the young waitress. I'd like a second serving of savory tofu pudding, Urian said in his hoarse voice, putting down the spoon. The noise in the restaurant died down. They were all staring at Yabimiya. They had finished their tofu pudding and would like more, but they had noticed the rule on the menu. Many people who were not very happy with how they looked were gazing at Yabimiya with great expectations. They were thinking that Mag might not say no to the two powerful magic casters, who were also Amy's masters. But, Yabimiya could feel their eyes on her. She panicked and didn't know what to do. They're Amy's masters. Should I bend the rules for them? I don't think the owner will reject their requests. Yet. After all, they're his daughter's masters. If he's willing to bend the rules for them, maybe we could make him sell us more too. They talked in whispers, waiting for the waitress's answer. They decided that Mag would grant the two old men's requests, so they were thinking about how to talk Mag into bending the rules for them too. They couldn't wait to have another serving of this tasty tofu pudding. Maybe I should have one more bowl of this. Sally seemed ambivalent, looking down at the empty bowl before her. The sweetness of the syrup made her feel so good, and she felt her breath smelled of honey. Sorry, each customer is limited to one bowl, and we don't do takeout on this one, Mag said, putting down a plate of Yangzhou fried rice in front of Krasu, smiling. Your Yangzhou fried rice, please enjoy. The customers felt astonished and disappointed. Although Mag was smiling, they could see from his expression that he would never compromise. For an instant, Krasu froze. He looked at his fried rice, and then at Mag. He let us eat for free in the morning, but now he won't even allow his daughter's master to have another bowl? Don't worry. I'll pay for it. He had got so addicted to the sweetness that he could hardly resist it. Urian raised an eyebrow. I've never been rejected before. Apparently, he's not very sensible. Mag shook his head. The rules are clearly stated on the menu. Hope you enjoy your meals. He was smiling on the outside, but he was in a bad mood on the inside. He had figured that many people would be very displeased with this new rule, but this tofu pudding was so rich in nutrients that consuming more than one bowl might be unhealthy. He would never do anything that might potentially harm his restaurant's reputation. Besides, he had a mission to accomplish, and the rewards were really tempting. Please follow the rules, masters, Amy said warily. We will. Nothing can be accomplished without rules, Krasu replied, smiling. He spooned some rice into his mouth. This Yangzhou fried rice is so good. Urian took a bite of his rujiamo. This rujiamo tastes great. The two old men had pretty much given up the hope of having another serving. They could have forced him to comply, but that would have been very inappropriate, especially before his daughter. Nobody dared treat them like this. Nobody but Mag. He treated them in the same manner as other customers, even though he knew very well who they were and what they were capable of. He treats everyone equally, without discrimination. Maybe that's a good thing. Krasu took a look at Mag, and got back to eating his food. Please sell me one more bowl. I really need it. I'll pay 10 times the price. Please, Lucia entreated, rising to her feet. She felt a little insecure as her husband had grown less affectionate. This dish was a godsend for her, she was willing to pay a ridiculously high price for it. Mag shook his head with a smile. I'm really sorry, ma'am. Please come back tomorrow morning. Then he said to the system, 2,000. Come on. It's stupid not to sell her. Please mind your language. Insulting me may trigger a hidden mission, the system said sulkily. What good are the rules if nobody follows them? You are to be the god of cookery. 2,000 copper coins is really nothing compared to your great cause. I'll give you 2,000 copper coins. That's so nice of you, the system said happily. Well, I was just kidding. But, said Lucia. Mag smiled. I hope you enjoy your meal. He turned around and walked back into the kitchen, leaving her standing there. Lucia still hadn't recovered from her surprise. She realized for the first time that money wasn't everything. We'll come back here first thing in the morning, Lucia, her friend said softly, tugging at her hand. The two old men he just rejected are both very powerful magic casters. Magic casters. Lucia's eyes went wide. She knew what these two words meant. She resumed her seat quietly. Mag doesn't even bend the rules for his little girl's masters. He's really a man of his word. I would definitely sell it to her at 10 times the price. Looks like we have to come back early tomorrow. The customers chatted in whispers. They had a deeper understanding of Mag now. I have never expected to see her here. I was told she left Chaos City half a month ago. We have already stopped searching for her here. Fucker seated himself in a corner, stealing glances at Sally. The news of her leaving home had found its way to Chaos City over 2 weeks ago. Her family was among the most powerful elven clans, so her leaving home was no small business. On top of that, Lady Helena had recommended her to the Elven Queen. Sally, who had always lived in the shadow of Irina, was now a popular candidate to become the Elven Queen. However, at this crucial point, she left home and went south, just as the Elven Princess had done. The reward for finding her was huge. Fucker could even hear his heart pounding with excitement. Maybe he would be able to return to the Wind Forest soon. He spooned some tofu pudding into his mouth, savoring the tasty food. He smiled. The good food here has brought me luck. Kraso pushed himself to his feet and walked to the kitchen door. Check, please. He smiled at Mag. Mag smiled back. That will be 8 gold coins. He was grateful to them for earlier since they hadn't given him a hard time. I've found a magic room in the Chaos School. It's on the 3rd floor in number 3 building of the Magic School. Take Amy there at 6:30 tomorrow morning. Also, please bring a plate of Yangzhou fried rice and some sweet tofu pudding for me. Mag was very happy when he heard that he would teach Amy in Chaos School, since Amy could play with her friends. Then he frowned. I have to deliver the food for him. He hesitated a moment, and then took the 16 gold coins from his hand. He is Amy's master. That's the least I can do. Mag nodded. Thank you. I will. Please take care of her. Apparently, Krasu had never seen this coming. He had thought Mag wouldn't deliver the food for him. He smiled and nodded. Mag smiled back. After Krasu left, Urian paid his check and left as well. The two sides were more determined now that they had tried the tofu pudding. The air was thick with hatred. Luna and Sally put down their spoons at almost the same time, letting out a breath of satisfaction. They were both high-born ladies, but they had never eaten anything as good as this. They were both convinced that the one they had eaten was the best, yet their good manners prevented them from making any remarks. They paid their checks. You're such a good girl, Amy, Luna said, stroking her head. Then she turned to Parmer and smiled. You're very good at math, Parmer. You are not daunted by that little setback, are you? No, I'm not. Thank you, Teacher Luna. The little boy's eyes started shining with ambition. Come back soon, Teacher Luna. Father can cook many good foods, and there will be more new dishes, said Amy. Luna nodded with a smile. I will, she said, her eyes full of expectations. The customers raised their heads in surprise when they heard what Amy had just said. They wondered if Mag could truly invent more unparalleled dishes. They really looked forward to his new dishes. Parber gave the kitten back to Amy after a while since it was too heavy for him. Later, when there were seats available for Harrison, Joy, and the two kids, Parmer ordered a bowl of savory tofu pudding, even though the other three ordered the sweet one. He smiled happily while eating tofu pudding and Rugiamo together. Bye, mushroom bowl, blue fatty, grey fatty, Amy said at the door, holding Ugly Duckling, waving her hand. Parber waved back. Bye, big sister and fat kitty. He turned his eyes away from the kitten unwillingly and held Joy's hand. Later, little owner, said Harrison and Joy, who was holding a box of Yangzhou fried rice in his hand. Why didn't you say goodbye to me? Palmer said, gazing at Amy with a sullen look. Because I haven't figured out what to call you yet. Bye. Palmer said, and left angrily. Bye. Amy went back into the restaurant, looking happy. Boss, how about we try this tofu pudding too? Kill asked, looking around. What do we work so hard for? Asked SAHDR, looking at Kill and Mond. For Rigiamo, they answered instantly. Eat. SAHDR said, pointing at the 15 Rigiamos before them. They were busy the whole night. After 9 p.m., Mag politely turned away the customers who were too late. When the last customer left, Mag closed the door and let out a sigh of relief. The fight between the two sides had ended, for now. It was more violent than he had expected. Father, we have sold 512 Rigiamos, 90 plates of rainbow fried rice, and 240 bowls of tofu pudding, Amy said happily. Our income today is 175,480 copper coins. I have converted dragon coins and gold coins into copper coins. Oh, you're so amazing, sweetheart. You're literally a math genius. Mag smiled, held her in his arms, and kissed her on the head. He was only 1,000 gold coins away from getting to buy the strength, and he had got 880 customers as of now. The braised chicken and rice will be popular in this world, and I will probably be able to swing a sword after I get that 0.5 strength. The thought of this brought a smile to Mag's face. Yabimiya looked at the father and daughter with a smile and an envious look in her eyes. When will my father come back? Mother promised he would, but when? I've been waiting for many years, she muttered to herself, taking the dishes into the kitchen. Mag looked at Amy with a serious look on his face. Amy, starting tomorrow, you will start your lessons with Krasu. Remember, you should call him Master Krasu and always be courteous and respectful. But I like to call him Master Halfbeard. Mag shook his head. It's rude. He might feel offended. Words can cut deeper than knives, and students ought to respect their teachers. You're their only student, so be good while attending their classes, okay? Amy nodded obediently. Yes, father. But can I call them Master Halfbeard and Master Turtle after class? Yeah, I guess, Mag said, looking at her expectant little face. They don't seem very bothered by their nicknames. Amy smiled. Great. She looked out the window and waved Mag's hand back and forth. I want to watch the stars, father. Okay, let's go up to the balcony. We can see clearer from there. He felt like an irresponsible father since he was always too busy to interact with Amy. Mia, go home if you are finished. Stay safe. Also, don't come early tomorrow morning. I have to take Amy to school, and won't be back until around 6:50. Yabimiya nodded. Yes, boss. Do you want me to massage your shoulders? Mag shook his head with a smile. No. Go home and get some rest. Good night, Sister Mia, Amy said, waving her little hand. Meow, cried Ugly Duckling. It still kept its distance from her, but it had grown accustomed to her working here. The waitress smiled. Good night. She felt so warm inside. Can we take Mushroom Fairy with us, father? Amy asked when they were about to go up the stairs. Sure. Mag went to get the music box, and ascended the third floor with Amy. Mag had tricked the system into remodeling the second and third floor while building the restaurant. The large balcony had a white rail and non-slip grey tiles, and was situated outside of a small empty room on the third floor. Facing the Aden Square, it provided a great view. A lamp went on the minute they opened the door. Wow, we have such a spacious balcony! Amy exclaimed in delight. She put Ugly Duckling on the floor and ran around happily. Mag was also a little surprised. This place is nice. We can grill meat and drink beer up here. The room is large enough for a grill, parasol, rocking chair, and other stuff. I need a rocking chair, he said to the system. I wouldn't lie on the floor to watch the stars. You have no right to change the restaurant. You will get 2 luxurious lounges for free after you upgrade it. Will customers eat up here? I don't think they will, the system answered after a while. Exactly, Mag said, smiling. The second and third floor are private sections. I won't allow them to come up here. The restaurant is on the first floor, so I'm not changing the restaurant. The system fell silent. Do you sell it or not? I don't have all night. Sorry, I was wrong. Of course you can buy a rocking chair. I have thousands of rocking chairs for you to choose from. Some even have massage functions. They are perfect at home and on vacation. Mag nodded as the pictures popped up in his head. That's more like it. Mag chose a brown cane chair with curved metal legs. It was 5 gold coins, and looked quite comfortable. The rocking chair will be ready in 5 minutes. Where do you want me to put it? The system asked. Here, on this balcony. Tell me when it's ready. He didn't want to miss the opportunity to do a magic trick before Amy. It was a cool night in early autumn, with gentle breeze. Father, come here. We're going to have a contest to see who can quack better. Will you be our judge? Asked Amy. Mag was taken by surprise. Is she trying to make a cat quack like a duck? He gave a wry smile. Amy, ugly duckling might not be a normal duck. Meow. Meow. The kitten nodded its agreement. Amy also nodded. I know. Then she turned to face it. You're a very ugly duck. Meow, ugly duckling cried in dismay. Mag gave a shake of his head and smiled. It seems she won't accept that it's actually a cat, at least not for a long time. Why do you want to have this contest? Because it doesn't know how to quack. It won't be able to communicate with other ducks. No duck will like it. Amy gave a worried look at the kitten and lifted its head with her little hand. Study harder. Or no food tomorrow, she said seriously. Meow, the kitten answered quickly, looking up at Amy. Quack, 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 Amy said. Actually, she was doing quite well. Meow, 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 said Ugly Duckling. Amy stomped her foot. No. Listen carefully. Quack, quack, quack. The kitten lowered its voice in fright. Meow, 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 no, you stupid duck. It's quack, quack, quack. Meow, 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 I will give you one last time. You'd better do it right this time. Quack. 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 Meow, meow, quayo, that's it. You're done. No duck will like you. She patted Ugly Duckling on the head. Then she looked up at Mag. It's so stupid, father. I don't think it will make it to adulthood. What about, don't worry. We'll make sure that it grows up, Mag said as Amy swallowed. He knew very well what was on her mind. He stroked her head. The competition was over before it even started. The rocking chair is ready. When do you want it? The system asked. In 30 seconds. Put it here, Mag said, pointing to the right. He smiled at Amy. I'll do a magic trick for you. Amy's eyes lit up. Is it magic? No. But they're quite alike in some ways. Okay. Amy clapped her hands and looked at Mag with expectation. We need a chair if we want to watch the stars here, right? And preferably a chair we can lie in. Amy nodded. Yes. Look at here and don't blink, he said, pointing to the right. Ta-da! Amy was staring with wide eyes, but after 3 seconds, nothing happened. Mag was still extending his arm, abashed. What the hell? Where is that damn rocking chair? Meow. Ugly Duckling called out behind him suddenly. Amy turned to look. Father, look! It's a chair, she exclaimed in delight. Mag turned around and found the rocking chair sitting behind him, rocking. Ugly Duckling was trying to climb into it. Sorry about that, the system said apologetically. It's heavy. But it won't happen again. Mag was furious, but he had to smile. It did that on purpose, I'm sure. It struck back, hey? Mag nodded. Yes. My magic tricks are a little rusty these days. He pushed the chair and it started rocking back and forth. It looked good. The rocking shook the kitten off and sent it rolling on the floor. Finally, it stopped and looked around confused, not knowing what had just happened. You're so amazing, Father. I want to be as powerful as you are. Amy said, looking up at Mag with adoring eyes. You'll be much more powerful than me after you master how to use magic. Mag smiled and stroked her hair, contented. Come on. Let's watch the stars. Mag got in the chair and moved over for Amy. Amy nodded. Okay. She climbed into the chair with effort and threw herself into Mag's arms, giggling. They're so beautiful, Mag said, holding Amy, rocking the chair gently. With no clouds and no flashing neon lights, the sky was so clear and deep. The stars were shining brightly. Mag couldn't remember the last time he saw such a spectacular night sky. Do you know how to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Father? Amy asked suddenly, looking up at Mag.